to this mini offshoot of the Penciled In podcast with your host, Producer Better, pardon. So we are going to try and do a couple of show reviews that I have been to, because I seem to be the roving reporter for the podcast. Some shows I won't talk about for certain reasons, because I think we want to do it collabed. But just so we're at least on top of things to a degree, we're going to try and get through one or two. Starting off with the furthest show back, which was at the New Chapel Community Hub near Stoke-on-Trent. This was for New Wave Wrestling West Midlands and their show Saturday Night Slam. This was a really enjoyable show. First time seeing the product. I really found it entertaining. So we'll kind of go through what happened, because there is quite a lot. The opening match on the card saw Jacob North, Scavenger, taking on Has Hype, Mr. Vlog himself. This was a solid opener for a show. Has Hype I've seen a fair few times at Bridgeboro. Jacob North I've seen quite a fair few times at Future Shock. So seeing them on different shows was always going to be entertaining. The match itself, Has Hype kind of being the early on aggressor, I suppose we can say. Things changed when Has went to the top rope and Jacob North fell backwards to knock Hypey Boy off. This basically saw Jacob North taking control of the contest. North then tries to... I don't know if he was trying a Hurricane Rana or what he was trying to do. However, gets reversed into a power bomb, or reverses it into a power bomb, getting caught off the top rope. I've not particularly written that very well. However, we see a power bomb. Both North and Has hit respective spears for near falls. The back end of the match sees Jacob North ripping the padding off one of the corners, and as the referee goes to put it back on, Has tries to land a move which does not land. He then runs at North, almost squashes the referee. The referee kind of does well to not get hit. But as he turns round, North picks him up for the north to south and sees Jacob North, your winner of the opening contest. Moving to the next one, what should have been MJ Grayson taking on Benjamin Harland never really actually happens, as MJ gets in the ring and says, obviously beforehand I should say, for context, this match saw the rule added that there was to be no Jacob North and no Nishiki, because they pretty much joined together at the last show, as Grayson and North are tag partners. So the rule came in that they were not allowed to be at ringside, they were barred. So Grayson goes to the outside, says to Harland, I'm not stupid, but you realise that I can bring in someone else. And New Wave West Midlands, before I get Jonathan Ross disease, isn't the only New Wave school, to which we see the New Wave Wrestling Wales, well, from New Wave Wrestling Wales Academy, that being the New Wave Wrestling Champion. I might shorten and abbreviate this, in Josh Holley. He came out and attacked Haaland from behind, taking out the leg of Haaland. That then sees both Grayson and Holley beginning to kind of dismantle him. We then hear the music of one Mark Haskins, who came out to make the save, grabs the microphone and informs everyone that he thought he's got a day off, so he thought he'd help his old mucker, Flash Morgan Webster, because he knows it's stressful on show days. However, seeing as them two wanted a fight, he's happy to not be on a day off. And so this set up a tag team match for later on in the evening, which would see MJ Grayson and Josh Holley taking on Benjamin Haaland and Mark Haskins. Moving to our next contest, and we saw two tag partners facing off to have a friendly rivalry, if you will, and that was Luca Romero taking on Lionel De Silva. This itself, was a really good match as well. I had not seen these two wrestle before, so for me it was basically seeing two new wrestlers for me. The fans were very, very much behind Luca. Maybe perhaps having Tainted Love as his intro was a big help, as he is called the Tainted Lover, which, hell of a nickname. The match itself, both kind of did, like, not so much chain wrestling, but just displayed their wrestling abilities. So one would get the better of one, the other would then have a go and they'd out wrestle them. So it's kind of like making sure that we knew that both were as equal as the other. Notes I've got: Romeo tries to hit a coast to coast after De Silva tried to do a cannonball and got himself lodged into the Tree of Woe. Romeo did actually hit the coast to coast, I should add. Good match, which ends with Romeo hitting his finishing move, Juliet's Kiss. Again, hell of a finishing name. The Tainted Lover gets the 1, 2, 3. The backstory to the following match, which was Joe Blazer and Wild Boar, not what I've written, Wild Boar, they took on the team of Flash Morgan Webster and Tom Callahan. So, as I say, the backstory. Callahan was the former ring announcer for New Wave Wrestling West Midlands. The last show they had, which was, I believe it was Grapple in New Chapel, because I love the hell out of that name. I love a good pun. Blazer had lost a triple threat match against both Flash Morgan Webster and Luca Romero, or Romeo, depending how you want to go about it. Let's call him Romeo. So Blazer lost that. The aftermath saw Blazer having a bit of a hissy fit. Callahan gets in the ring, kind of wants him to vacate it, ready for the next match. Blazer isn't happy, decides to take liberties and attacks Callahan. This then brings out Flash Morgan Webster to make the save, only really for Blazer to attack Webster. And then we saw Callahan clotheslining Blazer, who goes out the ring. And Webster sets up this match for Callahan to have his first ever match as part of a tag team, which left Joe Blazer looking for a partner. On the day before, saw the announcement that Wild Boar was going to be in his tag partner for this match. Apologies if you hear little pings. I'm using my phone to record this, and I also have my desktop on with my notes. So if you hear pings, sorry, team. The match itself was. I will say this, and I don't mean it to come across negatively, because I'm trying to be more kind of not nitpicky, but as opposed to just going, that's great, that's great, that's great, that's great. Because there was nothing really bad on the show. For some reason, this just seemed to feel a bit long in parts. Again, I'd love to know how long it went on for. But that will be the only negative thing I will say about this match, as you will find out. So, we started the match with Blazer and Callahan. Obviously, Blazer being the biggest heel there is, did not want to fight him early on. Tags in Wild Boar. So, we kind of had like back and forth. As the match gets going, Callahan would kind of get more of the beating. He would become the isolated one, which for someone to have their first match makes a lot of sense. The same time, when you have someone that's experienced like Flash Morgan Webster, it can go one of two ways, I think. You could always have the experienced one take the beating and have the new guy come in and have that, what was it, like the hot tag and like genuinely like the adrenaline going through him and he just beats everyone up. Or you can go this way where the inexperienced one takes the beating and you have the inexperienced one basically take the beating and the experienced one come in and do all the, not so much the heavy lifting, but it feels like the heavy lifting. However, reading my notes, which are not that good, Webster wants him badly because obviously Tom's taken a beating. I'll come to my thoughts at the end. Finally, Flash Morgan Webster gets tagged in, unleashes hell with multiple kind of clotheslines and kicks and notable offense on both men from corner to corner. As it goes on, Ball then gets Flash Morgan Webster in the Trapper Keeper Bomb, which, for those that don't know, is a package pile driver. But Trapper Keeper Bombs are so much cooler. Blazer then tags himself in to go and pick up the win, but Ball breaks up the count because he's doing all the heavy work. Why is he taking all the credit? Because it's Joe. That's pretty much why. Callahan then splashes into both, which would then have the crowd happy. This leads to Joe pretty much falling backwards, getting pinned, has the New Chapel crowd explode. When you're a new person to a show and you're wondering if the crowd are invested, they were invested because they blew the roof off this building. After the match, it saw Joe shout Wild Boar back, kind of patronisingly tapping him, saying that it was his fault they'd lost. Technically the best kind of lost. And if it hadn't been for him, then obviously his team would have won. Wild Boar does not take these comments kindly. I think Joe slaps him, or he does something to him at least. Boar puts him in the Trapper Keeper Bomb, leaves him laying, And again, has a big cheer, not as big as Tom's cheer when he pinned him. The match itself, even though I felt it went on a bit, but then again, it was really warm in there, so that could have played on my thinking. Tom was hugely over with everyone. I get the feeling. I get the feeling. I think it was probably obvious that it was Webster and Bull that had been helping put this together, along with Joe. For a debut match, Callahan did not look out of place, as did another person that has a debut on this show, which we'll come to later. This was really enjoyable. And for someone, as I say, for their first match, and to take a beating and become the one that's isolated is a really great effort. To do that in your first show, if he carries on like this, I think he will really have a good career. It impressed me so much that to have someone start out and they take like the beating, and they have to do all like the selling and everything more than anyone else. You expect that fully from like an experienced or semi-experienced. But again, first match, and you're doing this with two people that are more than likely walking you through it. Credit goes to everyone in this match for making it so good. Because I have seen one or two where it hasn't looked that good. But this, I think, is a good illustration of why New Wave Wrestling kind of one of the top wrestling schools when they can produce matches like this. Moving to the main event of the first half, and this was for the New Wave Wrestling Women's title. Lucia Lee taking on Alexia Nicole, the Bionic Woman from Vaughan, Ontario, taking on, I believe Lucia's from Coventry. I believe. Shoot me if I'm wrong, to which I probably will be. But either way, we don't really need to know like hometowns, because let's not forget, Davy Boy was always billed as from Manchester. He was not from Manchester. He was from Wigan. But again, these are minor details we're going through here. The more important stuff is how the match was. And the match, I really enjoyed this. It did take a bit for the crowd to get going, but there was a few of us that were kind of like trying to give the two in the ring some encouragement, because I think it's easy for when it's like a men's match for the crowd to immediately just be like get straight into it and everything. The women's matches, not all the time, but you do sense that there is there's an air sometimes with some people that just aren't interested, which is wrong, because I actually think the UK have arguably the women's matches are better than a lot of the men's, and I will die on that hill. The match itself, both look to try and gain an advantage early on. There wasn't particularly, much like another match we'll chat about later, a definitive heel babyface. Well, it didn't come across it till later in this match. Again, same with the one later on. Both tried to do mat wrestling just to gain like a bit of an upper hand in the match. I've put down no good and bad dynamic, basically heel babyface. The match then, I feel, really kick-started or ignited more with the crowd, at least, when Nicole caught Lee behind the ref's back and saw her beginning to work on the arm of the champion. This immediately told everyone that Lucia Lee was the babyface in this, and the champion battled hard throughout the entire contest, being basically like a one-arm bandit in theory. She got thrown into the turnbuckle shoulder first, even having one move that I'd never seen before but loved it. And it saw Nicole sticking Lucia's hand into the turnbuckle pad and just began to like kick her, bounced off the ropes to try and do a move. Lee pulled her hand out of the turnbuckle. This would then see her fighting back, using her legs as weapons, getting some offense in. Saw Lee being put in I want to say it was a crossface or an armbar, but either way, Lee got out of it. Lee then hit her opponent with a kind of hidden blade finisher I've put. I probably do know what it's called, but again, one, I've slept, and secondly, I'm not really great with finishers, as you will probably know. But I'm just reading what I've done. So she'd hit like a hidden blade on her, then hit the back of Nicole with her knees for the 1-2-3. I've put down big letters, love the match. I still love the match now. Was one of the best matches on the show. It didn't feel like the crowd was fully into it, which I felt was a bit of a shame for the two ladies in the match, because I've started to become a bit of a fan of Alexa Nicole when I've seen matches of her online. I am a huge Lucia Lee fan, have been since first saw her on the Soft Pro shows. So ever since then, she's always been one of my favourites. But yeah, I really enjoyed this match. And the reign of the cult classic is still ongoing. Moving to the next match, and we had Nishiki versus Visage. Nishiki, Pearl Harbor's Visage, as I've put, before the bell even started. Such is the new attitude of the picture-perfect professional wrestler. We then saw the Queen of Queens in Visage coming back. This had Nishiki on the back foot. Nishiki was... I'm just trying to decipher what I've written because I have no idea what I'm talking about. Then I've put Nishiki flips things in their favour, which obviously that's always going to happen. With the bad guy taking control, Nishiki gains the upper hand as the two fight on the ring apron, but with the ring post separating them. Punches over the kind of like the corner. However, we see things break down a bit with Nishiki pulling the arm of Visage through where the gap is of the ring post and the turnbuckle, because it ripped there's no turnbuckle pad on a couple of them. They just have like a flat, almost like what you'd see at boxing rings, where they have like the flat cushion thing instead of a turnbuckle, because why would you need a turnbuckle in boxing? So they pulled Visage into the exposed metal on the outside, which went shoulder first. Again, this saw the arm being focused on. As we went on, Visage weathered the attacks, came back with one of the best ways to alter a match that I've seen anywhere, and that was when Nishiki started running towards him, took the wig off him, threw it under the foot, which led Nishiki to slip and gain the advantage. However, despite all that, it would see Nishiki hitting a kind of Destino move, much like Naito hits, to score the pinfall victory. As of yet, I don't think they have named the move. I know he put it out to the Twitter followers to see if anyone wanted to come out with the name. Watch this space for whoever or whatever the name of that is. Good bout. Really solid match. Nothing sort of bad, nothing good, just a good solid match. However, after this, I did see the medic going through the curtain to check on someone, because obviously something had happened. And then I saw Visage walking around with an ice pack on the face. I think they said they're okay. They just took like a blow to the face. Nothing serious, which is a good thing. But yeah, it shows that this is not pantomime. Not pantomime? Ballet, that's the word. I mean, good God, wrestling is technically pantomime if you want to go down that route. Next, now this was one of the best I've seen. Arguably, I'd put this in one of the best matches, and I think I have put it on the board. It was the Jack Knudsen Open Challenge, to which saw Jack Knudsen, who is one of the coaches for Remembering Where the Camera Is. Knudsen is one of the coaches at New Wave Wrestling, mostly, obviously, the West Midlands one. He put out an open challenge for someone to not just debut, but have their first match. The challenge was answered by Reese Reynolds, and from the off, it had the crowd fully behind Reese. Chants of Reese throughout this match. This was so much fun, and I would say probably stole the show. It was just so good. Just 1 second while I wet my whistle. So, Reese showcased some good moves early on. But of course, Jack was always able to kind of like cut him off when he needed to. Just to kind of keep the student, so to speak, like down. Thinking, okay, I'll let you do this, but I'm always going to kind of get the better of you, being the teacher. One incident was when Reese had a lot of momentum on his side, tried to go through the legs of Knudsen. Knudsen trapped his head like a vice and did the twisted legs to the neck, which I've seen in the last couple of days. Charlotte Flair have the same thing done to her by Julia, I believe, and it looks so bad. So bad. This looked great. But that gave Knudsen the upper hand. Knudsen tries to hit the Dragon Driver, having told us about 3 or 4 times he was going to hit it, and on every occasion, it never worked. One of those, it's a bit like Lycos shouting Brainbuster. You know it ain't getting hit when they shout it, until they rush saying it, and then you know they are. So anyway, we had that. Reynolds then fought back. Great, comeback. Everyone in New Chapel community hub was right behind him. Nutton did great to make this feel bigger than maybe it was. He did. Reynolds, I felt, was tiring a bit, which for a first match as well, and for certain things, it really was warm in that venue. Possibly, I mean, you will get it. It's the first match. Nothing's going to be perfect. However, the fact he then managed to not just pick Knudsen up, but then throw him on his shoulders. He hit a big F5, and Jack slowly done that thing of roll out the ring just as he's going to pin. It is one of those great moves, but equally, Reese's look of despair that he could not get covering for a pin made it so much better. Again, the crowd chanting for Reese. The loudest Reese chant since I last went to a Reese's kind of cups place. When I wanted some Reese's cups and I chanted Reese. That's another topic. I think that helped him gain more adrenaline in this match because this was a belting match. He slipped trying to go from the corner to the ropes and land a crossbody. Again, not going to begrudge him a minor slip. I will not moan at him for that. It's the first match. You get a pass for me. Did not take anything from it. If anything, doing it again and hitting it picture perfect was even more impressive. Unsurprisingly, you knew the result of this beforehand. Knudsen, unsurprisingly, hits the Dragon Driver after the fourth or fifth attempt. I've put everyone wins in this match. Jack wins, obviously, because he won the match. The crowd wins because they watched a great match. But the biggest one of all was Reese Reynolds. Kind of the response he got for a newcomer is... I can't think of the last time I saw a debut that had that much of a crowd reaction. So... And also, if you told me that was his first ever match, I would call you a lying so-and-so. Because that he looked more like an experienced wrestler. And again, if that's how they're training wrestlers at New Wave, then dear God, they are definitely one of the best schools around. Coming to the, as is penciled in Mike's favourite word, the penultimate match of the show. We had the tag team match of Mark Haskins and Benjamin Harland taking on the team of MJ Grayson and Josh Holly. I put down this one that I said this felt a bit long-winded. If I said the other match, that was a tag match, felt a bit long, this one definitely felt longer. It started out with the heels in Grayson and Holly having their opponents in the corner, going to do opposite splashes, but obviously Haskins and Harland moved out of the way, take turns to beat up their foes, which saw the action spill out to the outside, setting up chairs, hitting them about, I felt like about 4 or 5 times, doing like kicks and punches. That just seemed to kind of take me out of it a bit. If you do one kick and then they did it again, fair enough. But when they did it like over and over, it just seemed to kind of have me going, can you just get to the wrestling now? When the action returned to the ring, the heels gained the advantage. They then did the same to them with the chairs, did it once, got back into the ring. Haaland was being the isolated one in the contest. Haskins, desperate for the tag, finally gets tagged in, has both Grayson... Oh, sorry. Haskins wants to get the tag, but can't get in. Gets tagged, but has to go back out. Grayson and Holly then take turns to chop their opponent. I think this was when Haskins came in, though. So they'd kind of hold their arms behind him. The other would come running in to do offense. Which I always feel when someone's on the rope and you hold someone, you don't have the will to just like hold the rope. If you hit your opponent hard, you would obviously fall back harder. But just me. So they went to do a chop. Opponent moves out the way and sees Grayson being chopped. Then they do it again, where then Holly goes to chop Grayson. Holly goes to chop the opponent, misses, gets Grayson. The heels then just have a minor kind of disagreement, going, "Why did you chop me? You're an idiot." That could have led to like one of them turning on the other, but it didn't, which is nice to see for once, because sometimes it can just hurt things. We then have Haaland nearly running into the ref, manages to stop himself. However, Holly just sees them both and just goes, pushes Ben into the corner, which sees the ref taking the bump. Nishki then comes down with a steel chair. Holly goes to use it, but Grayson said, "I'll do it because I've got beef with Haaland." I think he misses. Well, he does miss him, and sees kind of like Holly wanting to use the chair, which I think he did. Again, this is all from memory, so don't quote me on this. Things seem to be completely going against the good guys. Nishki then leapt up on the ring apron. However, he was pulled down by Sun Vu Ho of The Future Is Meow. I love Sun Vu Ho. I've never seen them properly. I've seen them in like a mini rumble at Bridge Pro, because they are tag partnered with Zach Walker. No, the future Zach Walker, should I say. Another staple of Bridge Pro. But it saw Sun Vu Ho and Nishiki kind of fighting to the back. Holly then used the chair on Haskins. See, I knew I said he'd use the chair. That saw him kicking out at 2. Haskins and Haaland are both put in submission holds. I think they were both put in... I think they were put in Boston Crabs or crossfaces. Either way, they both got out of it. In the end, we saw the reverse. We saw Haaland putting Grayson in a triangle choke, I think, or a Hell's Gate. Haskins put Holly in a sharpshooter for dueling submission holds and forcing the double tap out. And now, your main event of the evening was Man Like Dries taking on Gabriel Fraser. This was so much fun. Possibly the beginning outshined it. Arguably. As we had the 0-1-2-1 chance for Dries, which lasted about, I believe, 6 or 7 minutes before we even got any wrestling. Then we had Dries asking Fraser what his area code was, because he had to explain it. And you could hear him say 905. So they tried to start a 905 chant, which did not particularly happen. However, when we then got the 0121, half the other fans started to chant 905 in response. I mean, British crowds are always good for things like that. I will say, though, whereas I've been to some shows looking at the Rev Pro crowd at the 11th anniversary when a lot of people just started singing Hardcore Country the entire match over the women's match and shitting on it effectively. They did this, but they weren't trying to take over. They weren't trying to make themselves the attention. The match itself, when it broke out, really, really good. Two great junior weights. Derice, we know what Derice is. He's great. For that, I hadn't seen much of it all, if I'm being totally honest. Forrest hit some nice offense. I haven't put down what they were, but if I'm putting that down, he definitely did something. This was a great match. Again, similar to the women's title match, where there seemed to be two good guys. Towards the back end, it saw Gabriel picking up the microphone that Derice brought out, smacking him in the head with it, and from that point onwards, we knew who was good and who was bad. He then hit a power bomb, which drew a 2 count until Derice kicked out. Fueza then put him in a power bomb, in a Boston Crab, saw him getting to the ropes, and after a couple of tries of Derice putting on the sharpshooter, he finally got it on, forced his opponent to tap out to it, and have the master of the 0121, the lyrical dragon himself, taking victory, and effectively ended the night on such a good note. The show itself, really enjoyed. Wasn't a bad match on the card at all. Nice flow to the show as well. Didn't feel kind of like stagnated in any way. Definitely will be going back to another show. I can't go to the next show because it clashes with something else. That said, I will be back. Travel problems exempt. But yeah, New Wave Wrestling, Saturday Night Slam. Let's get into what happened at Catch Pro Wrestling Evil Intent at the Manchester Breadshed. It was a load of fun. That's one way to put it. Let's see if I can get this done pretty sharpish. So, we started the show with a triple threat tag team match that featured the Medusa Complex, that being Millie McKenzie and Charlie Evans. They went up against Hard Up North, that being Harley Hudson and Lucy Sky, who is also the current Catch Pro Women's Champion. And the third team was the team comprising of Lily Winter and Leah Raven. So, looking through my notes, of which could be interesting, the Medusa Complex and Hard Up North had, I think it's fair to say, were antagonising each other in this contest, with Millie McKenzie using Leah Raven's hand to give them the middle finger, which is quite humorous, having Harley and Lucy none too happy. Millie and Charlie then hit a nice double team on Leah Raven, which saw them kind of kicking her knees out from her and kicking her in the face. Raven then hit back with a sling blade on Millie McKenzie. Lucy then tagged herself in before giving out verbals to McKenzie. Lily Winter then got in and hit a gut wrench suplex on Harley Hudson. Hudson then came back, hitting a hip attack to the face of Lily Winter in the corner. Raven hit a backstabber on Harley, who was in the ropes. Lily and the Medusa complex then hit an assisted cutter on Lucy Sky. Lily Winter hits a skull-crushing finale, or a front Russian leg sweep, whichever you prefer. She hit that on Lucy Sky as well. However, it's all Medusa complex and Lily and Raven having a kind of back and forth, which saw Raven and Winter hitting kicks on both members of the Medusa complex. That was before Hard Up North both came into the ring, firstly knocking Lily Winter off the ring, and then having Lucy Sky giving a big knee to the face of Leah Raven before hitting a spinning leg and hooking the leg like a spinning neck break and leg hook to win the match and see Hard Up North taking the victory. Next, we moved straight to the final block matches of the Enigma series. Two people that could not do anything really, because the block they're in, we'll come to that in a wee minute. But the two in question were Steen and Ian Skinner. This was a really fun contest. Hard fought, as they always are. Skinner hit a jumping kick to the face to Steen's head. Steen responded with a springboard dropkick on Skinner. Steen went to the well once too often with another springboard, but he was met with a lariat from Skinner. Ian then booted Aiton in the upper body, maybe like neck. Steen responds with a devious, devilish smile, plants a huge kiss on Ian Skinner's lips, then gives him a massive forearm smash. Skinner returns the favour, giving Steen a huge kiss on the lips before hitting a forearm back, and we would see both men trade kisses and smashing the other one with whoever had the hardest forearm smash. Skinner then hit a free attack combo with an elbow, punch, and a strong, stiff clothesline. Steen then hit a bookend kind of like maneuver and saw referee Liam counting the 1, 2, 3. However, that was very quickly waved off as he noticed that Ian's foot was on the ropes. So the match carried on. Skinner brought a chair into the ring, going to use it on Steen. Steen kicks it back into his face. Steen would then set up the chair and summoned his inner Sabu, doing the finger point to the sky, propelling himself, running at the chair, diving over, and going right into the real thing, Ian Skinner. Once he got back in, this is where the match ended, as referee Liam tried to throw the chair out. This allowed Skinner to punch Steen right in the balls to pick up the victory and see Ian Skinner finishing the tournament on 4 points, who at the time was level with Chris Ridgway. More on that later. Moving to the other block, we saw pretty much the consolation points in this one, as we saw Tom Farewell taking on Dynamite Lee Dawson, very much like his last match for Farewell when he faced Scott Oberman. He tried to gain the advantage before the bell rang, hitting his opponent with a spear. Tom and Greenwood had very strong words. James Greenwood trying to lay the law down to Tom, who could frankly care less. Anyway, the bell would ring. Tom spears Dawson again and only gets a 2 count. Farewell then whips him hard into the corner. Goes to hit the 3 amigos, but before he can hit the third, has to stop and flash those guns of his. Dawson then manages to use his momentum to stop a suplex from happening, hitting a spinning neck breaker before landing a succession of clotheslines in the corner. Lee then kicks Farewell in the head after he flips him off. Lee then goes to end things with the powder keg DDT, but while he has Tom in the ropes, Tom wriggles free, kind of pulls down Lee, who does the most dramatic fallback I've ever seen off the ropes. Tom gets angry with Greenwood not counting the pinfall, pushes Greenwood towards the corner. The second time, full on shove. And while he's kind of berating Greenwood, Dawson comes running at him. Farewell hits an amazing clothesline that knocks his opponent out, turns him inside out. Farewell starts celebrating. Greenwood, however, disqualifies Farewell for shoving an official, which means that because he gets disqualified, he loses a point. So, from Tom thinking he had 2 points, he then ends the Enigma series on -1. And I don't think that has happened before. I mean, it could have, but I will have to double check. However, Tom is furious at this point. Hits 2 pile drivers on Lee Dawson, who is the unlucky recipient, before looking up at the box and telling catch management he was the first catch champion. He feels he should be treated with respect and doesn't think he gets any at all by the fans or the wrestlers, and says to Catch if he's given shit, which is what he said Dawson was, and other wrestlers he's faced, if I'm treated with the caliber of this, I will start to take out members of the roster and lay them out, and then proceed to hit another pile drive on Dawson, having words with Greenwood and leaving. So we'll see where kind of this goes now that the Enigma series is pretty much done and dusted. We then had the battle for the other group, which I think was Group B. I could be wrong on that. This was Scott Oberman taking on Troy Ryan. Winner takes all. Both men were tied on 4 points each. And before the match even got underway, Oberman, shall we say, is used to taking his sweet-ass time on his entrances. As much as we enjoy Nothing Else Matters by Metallica, hearing the full-length version, I'd like to see something in between, like, I don't know, wrestling maybe, as it saw fans waiting and waiting for Scott to come out. We had MC Mark Adams basically sat on the top rope. Greenwood just waited. Troy Ryan was in with the fans chatting, doing press-ups. The editor and the camera people were just sitting at on the ring apron, waiting for something to happen. It never did. Eventually he came out, and once he turned round in the ring, Troy Ryan practically just threw him all over the place, treated him like a rubber ball. The action went to the outside, where not only did Ryan throw him at one wall, not even two walls. Uh, in fact, he threw him at three different walls in the bread shed. Um, however, Oberman would then manage to gain some control back, landing a dive off the top rope to the outside, nearly dragging the lights off the ceiling in the process, but that's a minor detail. We then saw two vicious running spears by Oberman into the body of Troy Ryan. Ryan then goes to hit a power bomb, however, he seemed to lose his grip a bit, did incredibly well to regain control, manages to then hit a sit-down power bomb. Troy hits his running big body check that nearly sees Scott leaving the ring. Scott hits another spear, follows it up with a jumping arm breaker before hitting his Riding the Lightning, which is basically a diving cutter from the top rope. Or if a person jumps off the top rope, he catches him in a cutter. He then hits a suplex. However, he cannot keep him down for the 1-2-3. Ryan then goes for the fall of Troy to end things. However, Scott wriggles out of it, rolls him up for the win, winning the block in the process, and sets up a number one contenders match with Mr. Chris Ridgway, which will be happening next month. However, after the match, saw a disconsolate Troy Ryan saying that I seem to keep losing, I'm sorry to everyone, and then announces that on September 21st, we will see a return of Catch Pro Wrestling's Hoss Tournament for a second time, I believe. I'm gutted because I will not be there. So I'm just getting random messages popping up. But yeah, so on September 21st, 2025, Catch Pro brings back their Hoss Tournament. Troy Ryan is determined to win this one, so we'll see which meaty boys will turn up for that particular tournament. Our penultimate, as Pencil Mike likes me to use, saw the final group match of the Enigma Series involving Chris Ridgway, the winner of that block, taking on Tony Wright, who had failed to score a point in the entire block so far. Beforehand, though, Tony came out, grabbed the microphone, apologising to everyone for not being the Tony Wright that everyone sees anywhere else, promises that you will see a different Tony Wright, and this is merely just pride that he's got fighting for now. Ridgway and Wright, Ridgway has been one of Wright's wrestling teachers, the other being Sam Bailey. Ridgway, on Twitter when Wright brought this up, didn't seem to want to take the credit for Tony Wright. Kind of take that as you like, good or bad. The two, though, did put on a really fun wrestling match. Both went hold for hold, which Wright has so much improved since the first time I saw him in, I think it was 2023. Every time I ever see him, he gets better and better and better. This again was just him going up a gear for me. Chris, of course, goes for the knee, begins to torture Tony Wright with a multitude of submission holds. All of them probably would have made many a men tap. Tony, of course, refuses to give up. Wright fights back, sees him now being the aggressor. That's until Ridgway and Tony then stand there trading shots with chops and slapping each other. For some reason, I've put down would like breakfast. I have no idea why. I think that's meant to say who breaks first, but it's come up breakfast. Okay. Ridgway then goes to do a leg sweep and misses. However, as he spins back round, Tony hits him with the Faymaster, gets a 2 count. Ian Skinner then comes to the ring and was met by the foot of God, that being Tony Wright. Wright then manages to ignore Ridgway, catches him with a super kick, and with momentum on his side, looks to hit a big move off the ropes. But upon running towards him, his knee buckles, kind of collapses in the ring on his knees, which then allows Ridgway to hit a knee to the back of Tony's head. Everything looked to be coming up Millhouse for Ridgway. He goes to hit a suplex, but just as he is about to pick him up, the bell sounds and we get a time limit draw, which means both men get a point each, which I'll come to the table in a wee minute. After the match, however, Skinner runs in to attack Tony. Ridgway stops. Ridgway then checks on Tony's okay. We then see a face-to-face between Oberman, who dashes into the ring to try and get a cheap shot in on Ridgway. He ducks the incoming punch as both men, and as far as I know, unless anything has changed drastically, members of Northwest Strong, who, while is still a stable and has not particularly disbanded, they just looked at one another, and we got the announcement that on June 16th at New Art Riot, which is the next show, Oberman and Ridgway will fight it out for the number 1 contendership in a 2 out of 3 falls match. So, and I can already hear Andy Ogden in the background complaining about what will happen in a 2 out of 3 falls match. Hello, Andy. So, the match itself, this was a really good match. 2 people that seem to enjoy wrestling each other. Never a chore when you have Tony in the ring. Also, neither when Ridgway is in the ring. An interesting way to finish the block, making it a draw. I did mention the last time of how they could have worked an interesting dynamic. I was nearly there, where I was going to say Skinner could have come to the ring, interfered, got Ridgway disqualified, Wright would win, and in doing so, you would have had Skinner advance by 1 point, and Ridgway would have lost out. But we'll see where this goes, because Oberman and Ridgway, I haven't seen yet, but I look forward to it, which is all you want from a wrestling match. Moving to our final match of the show for the Catch Pro title, Scotty Rourke. Oh, before I come to that, the table for the Enigma Series was as follows. So, you had Chris Ridgway finishing on 5 points. You had Ian Skinner finish on 4, Aitonstein on 2, and Tony Wright finishing on 1. In the other group, you had Scott Oberman finishing on 6, Troy Ryan finishing on 4, Lee Dawson finishing on 2, and Tom Felwell finishing on -1. Now we come to the main event. For the Catch Pro title, Scotty Rourke versus Joe Kessler. Originally billed as a triple threat match with Vusic, who unfortunately was not well, so this became a one-on-one match, similar to what we saw at the 5th or 6th anniversary show back in January, February. It's been a long year, fair to say. That was at the Deaf Institute. This was at their normal home of the Bread Shed, and it was basically a brawl to start things off. Rock does not like Kessler, and I'm sure the feeling is mutual. From the opening, I don't even think we even got the bell, to be fair. Starting off as a brawl, Rock took the fight straight to Kessler, leaping out at him to the outside. He fought all over the Bread Shed, using anything that wasn't nailed down. Cleaning cones, drinks, practically anything that I said wasn't nailed down, they used. Rock then threw Kessler across the front row seats, nearly breaking one chair in the process. Slightly bent one chair, I think it was. But Rock was on one this night. He was more focused and arguably more dangerous than he was for the Grimsby Rules contest. Kessler then would catch Scotty in midair, slamming him down to the mat. We then saw him hitting a suplex and wearing his opponent down with a huge chop. Rock fought back, landing a couple of feet to the face of Joe. Kessler went for another slam that got reversed into a spinning DDT. Kessler hits his foe with 2 powerbombs in succession, getting a 2 count. Scotty then went for a moonsault that saw Joe getting his knees up to block it. Rock then went for a leaping cutter, but again, Kessler was equal to it, putting Greenwood in front of him. Not a good night for Greenwood, it seemed to feel, when he's not being taken out by Tom and pushed around and badmouthed. He's then getting beat up in other new ways. None of them exciting. Kessler hits the end of days, which draws a 2 count after Greenwood kind of came to count it. Joe grabs the Catch Pro title. Greenwood grabs it from him, saying, "You are not using that." Kessler kind of relinquishes the title, which is ironically what he would do about 30 seconds later. This was after he's turned around. I'm saying the Black Mass kick from Rock. It's probably another name. Again, I do not know move names from certain people. I apologise. I am learning. However, the kick to Big Joe put him down. Rock covers him. 1, 2, 3. We have a new Catch Pro. I would say heavyweight, but we don't really have weights anymore. The Catch Pro champion. Scotty Rourke is your new champion. What this holds now for Catch Pro, anyone's guess. Will be interesting to see how Rock's title run goes for this. Overall, the show, another banger. Love Catch. It is in the top 2 of my favourite shows, or promotions, I should say. Okay, it's 1 of 3 of my favourite ones. And I'll kind of leave that there. So, the show itself, brilliant. Arguably the best one of the... Well, easily the best one. Was it as good as last is Gimme Danger? No, I'll say Gimme Danger slightly outweighed this one. Slightly. But the show itself, no complaints. Loved every single minute of it. But yeah, that is your Catch Pro review show. I have been producer Petter.
And good night.